Hi, Robin. It's good to see you once again. I think in the news this week certainly is Haiti, and there was just a CARICOM conference out of Kingston, Jamaica, when several heads of states of CARICOM had a meeting, and it turns out that, however you want to phrase it, Prime Minister Ariel Henry decided to resign, whether he was pushed, coerced, or whatever. We won't go into that. Decided to resign. And it seems as if they've been able to agree to like a 9-member council or panel to run the country, what they call it, I think, a presidential panel, to run the country until such time as they can bring everybody together, so to speak, and arrange for free and fair elections, whatever that means. In the current climate, as we know, all the different, shall we say, international powers that focus on Haiti, as well as on the Caribbean, to try to determine the course of events there. But I'm pleased with what has happened with CARICOM, because they've taken on agency for Haiti and its future. And obviously it's a long path, but it's a pause in the direction, in the downward side of Haiti that has been going on for some time, and we're going to get that aspect of it to you to fill us in on the historical background. But it's just a beginning, because there's immense journey, and part of what is needed at the present time then is going to be this international, whatever you want to call it, police force or whatever, to help to, shall we say, take the guns out of the hands of the gangs and to reinforce the Haitian police, and then hopefully move gradually, shall we say, or expeditiously towards elections and a new president and a new prime minister. So there's some progress, and I think the minimum is that CARICOM has to be congratulated for halting the downward slide. And of course, then over time, Haiti itself has to be reconstructed. But, the downward slide has been going on, almost from 1804. And, I think it's very, very important for us to look at the whole historical aspect of, number one, how Haiti came about, in terms of its juxtaposition in the Caribbean, its juxtaposition in terms of the major powers that were responsible for the enslavement of African people.
Greetings, my name is Robin Walker. I'm also known as the Black History Man. I am perhaps best known for my 2006 book, When We Ruled. Based on this book, I'm launching a new online history course aimed at you, the adults. You could be a parent, you could be a teacher, a mechanic, cleaner, professionals, care workers, security guards, taxi drivers, kitchen workers, entrepreneurs, tech heads, lawyers, all of you. We want people from all over the world to be empowered by our content. We want you to gain mastery over your history and heritage. And you can do this by subscribing to our course. Click on the link to get this powerful, life-changing material.
And in particular, the revolutions that were taking place at that time, meaning, for example, the American Revolution, which took place in 1783, and of course the French Revolution, which started in 1789, but continued, you know, for another 5 or 6 years, more or less, for its completion. So it essentially overlapped with the Haitian Revolution, which started in 1791 and went to 1804. So what we have is a juxtaposition of revolutions and a beginning of nationalism, moving away from the idea of monarchy and that overlordship of the feudal system, and moving towards nationalism. Can you jump in there and fill us in a little bit on the French Revolution and who was it, Louis the 16th, and storming the Bastille, et cetera, leading up to these other changes, because it's important that this connection, I think, is made, you know, because you know we had in terms of the United States, oh my goodness, who was president of the United States at the time? He had his mistress and he had his slaves, and of course he was still talking about equality and fraternity, etc. And he was very much influenced by the French Revolution, but of course he didn't recognize the Haitian Revolution and fought against Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines, etc. And America did not recognize the French Revolution until, you know, much later, something like 1862. Anyway, I'll let you jump in there again, because I think it's important, you know, for us to understand the historicity of these movements, because initially they are ideas, but they're movements of people and energy, and then things get put, institutions get put in place. And I think people have to understand that you know, we have a tendency to think that somehow, you know, God is going to do it, or somehow over time things just happen. But things don't just happen. Somebody has an idea, and somebody else decides to carry out the idea, or a group of people decide to carry out the idea, and then you have institutions, you have nation states, etc., etc. So please, Robin, I'll fill us in there, beginning maybe with the French Revolution.
Yeah, Europe in the 18th century was an idea that the intellectuals were coming with, and the intellectuals were coming with the idea of the Enlightenment. And what the Enlightenment did was to look at how we see society, how we see science, how we see religion, and the idea that the old has to go if it doesn't stand up to rational thinking. And this led to the rationalist intellectual tradition, of which the Enlightenment was the part of it. Now, new research has found that the very first Enlightenment scholar wasn't René Descartes. It was actually an Ethiopian scholar called Zera Yacob, and his book was called the Hatata, which means the Inquiries. And so scholars have gone down that route, but we'll leave that alone for the time being. So Europeans, intellectuals were coming with this idea that there has to be a rational basis. And there's no rational basis for saying that God has given the king the right to rule. And that was the idea that was running through Christianity since the very beginnings of Christianity. And so that made the king a divine figure under which God has protected the king. And then that leads to this idea of a natural social order of elites, aristocrats, hierarchies, and so on and so forth. And essentially the revolutionaries in France, the revolutionaries in America were challenging this. But the one group of people that neither groups of revolutionaries really cared about was us. And so people will talk about liberty, fraternity, and all this kind of nonsense, but they did not include us. And that's very, very important. And so this notion then that the modern era begins with revolutionary France or revolutionary America, that's the way white historians tell it. And they will connect it to the Enlightenment. They will make sure that Zera Yacob and the Hatata doesn't get mentioned. And they will also make sure that the only real revolution that actually happened, where enslaved people destroyed a slave system, which is what the Haitians did, they'll make sure that that's not a part of the discussion. So this way they can claim to have invented the modern era, where instead of you being a subject of the king, you are a citizen. Instead of the king being the head of state, the president is the head of state. These types of ideologies is then what's supposed to be associated with modernism and is supposed to be associated with rationalism. And if you leave out the black chapters, the Hatata on one hand and the Haitian Revolution on the other, you can make it look like the whole modernist ideology has nothing to do with black folks whatsoever. And that's the fiction that the intellectuals have been able to maintain. And they were able to maintain it until, of course, you had great scholars like the legendary Trinidadian intellectual C.L.R. James, who made sure that the whole world knew about the importance of the Haitian Revolution and why ultimately black people outside Haiti, we owe the Haitians, because the reason why we are free people today, that story of why we are free people today, why we are not enslaved today, we owe the Haitians big time.